Now I invite Prabhav Paturi to present his paper examining the all-encompassing nature of the feminine under the Hindu Pantheon, a scriptural and folkloral view.
Okay, namaste one and all. Yo devas savitasmakam dhiyo dharmadigocharaha prerayet tasya yat bhargaha tadvarenyamupasmahe. So, I would like to begin this paper by telling you a little bit about what Hinduism has become today in the contemporary narrative and what it is actually. The word Hinduism has been picked up and made out to be a religion of Vedas, Puranas and Itihasas. That is true, but only partially true. The other side of it is a folkloral view or the folkloral narrative that is missing. And that kind of narrative and the amalgamation of the Vedic and the folkloral view is what we require today to understand Hinduism a bit more in depth. And next slide please. So basically my paper is about the all-encompassing view which is absent in the Western contemporary view of feminism. Feminism or feminine and masculine in the Western view is completely rigid. The feminine in the Western view is limited to words like compassion, nurturing or creativity, and the word masculine is limited to words like hardworking, logical or strong, aggressive, ferocious, etc. But in the Hindu narrative or the Vedic narrative, it is an all-encompassing view both of the feminine as well as the masculine. And these are the two views that I want to present. And the methods that I am chosen to present these two views is one is scriptural and the other is folkloral. The scriptural view basically has to do with Vedic sources, Tantric sources and Pauranic sources. And the folkloral view has to do with the field work or the field study that I have done as a cross-cultural psychology researcher. So, in the Indic view, I want to emphasize that it is a flexible but an all-encompassing view. Next slide, please. So, what do I mean by scriptural? So, in scriptural, if we look at it, we can divide it in forms of Tantra, Vedas and Vedic body of literature. In Tantra, because this is about feminine in Hinduism, I have chosen Shaktiya Tantra. In that I am going to discuss two books. One is Pranatoshini Tantra and the other is Gayatri Tantra, which has been cited in Mantra Maharnava, which I am going to discuss. And in Pranatoshini Tantra, I am going to discuss about Dashamahavidyas. And other than the Tantra part, coming to the Vedas, I am going to discuss the Gayatri Mata, the concept of Gayatri Mata from Taittiriya Aranyaka. And in scriptural, in the whole Vedic body of literature, for the same Aranyaka, there is also a Sandhya Bhashyam. And so that's what I'm going to use or present in my whole discussion. So next slide please. So basically these are the 10 Dashamahavidyas, if you can see the picture, and they are usually in the following sequence. They go like Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari, Bhuvaneshwari, Chinnamasta, Bhairavi, Dhumavati, Bagalamukhi, Matangi and Kalatmika. Each examine a different aspect of the feminine, while Kali, Chinnamasta, Bhairavi and Bagalamukhi are representations of concepts such as aggression, fury and protection from enemies. Tripura Sundari, Bhuvaneshwari, Dhumavati, Matangi and Kalatmika represent the beauty, love, compassion and the motherly nature of the feminine. So here again I want to remind you the stark contrast between the Western view and the Indic view, where we have these same goddesses who can be seen as both motherly, loving, compassionate and at the same time aggressive, ferocious and wielding weapons. Right? Next slide please. But again, and this is how I am going to classify this, the motherly nature of the aggressive feminine. Feminine, as I have previously told you, is not associated with aggression. But here, in these Dashamahavidyas and whatever else we are seeing, they are being associated with the aggressive or sort of more ferocious qualities that are usually associated with the masculine. But they also have a motherly nature. How is that? For example, and as I've told you, I would like to examine Pranatoshini Tantra. In Pranatoshini Tantra, there is goddess Tara, who came into existence only to heal Shiva. She came into existence. She was literally born out of a need to heal someone or help someone, but at the same time, she is wielding a lot of weapons. See, you can see that picture there, right? And that's basically Ma Tara. And I wanted to show the compassionate side of her. And the weapons are basically, in this picture, they have been hidden away behind the flowers and you're not probably able to see them well, but in the next pictures you'll be able to see them. The same way, even Chinnamasta, who is associated to be the most ferocious or the most powerful goddess of all, she has actually come into existence to serve the hunger of attendants who were previously serving her in the form of Devi or Bhagavati. Next slide, please. So, the aggressive nature of the motherly feminine. Here I want to talk about Tripura Sundari and Bhuvaneshwari, Dhumavati, Matangi and Kalatmika. They all represent this beauty, love, compassion and motherly nature of the feminine, but all of them also carry weapons. So both of these are scriptural reviews. The first is the motherly nature of the aggressive feminine. The second is the aggressive nature of the motherly feminine. But this picture is of the goddess called Dhumavati, and here I want to take a small detour and tell you that in Hinduism, usually there is this view that widows are being mistreated or widows are not given due prominence in society that they are usually, they should be given as humans, right? But here, Dhumavati is a goddess who is a widow. So this view is being challenged, at least in the theoretical framework that is being offered here. And she is actually described as a giver of siddhis, a rescuer from all troubles, and a granter of all desires and rewards. She is seen as auspicious for bachelors and bachelorettes. Such an irony, basically she is a widow and she is seen as auspicious for bachelors and bachelorettes. At Varanasi, even married people worship her. At the Chausat Yogini temple, and there are many other temples where she is worshipped in Varanasi. So at that particular place, even married people worship her, but usually you see bachelors and bachelorettes offering her. And ultimately she is seen as the void in between the dissolution and the effect of creation that actually happens. And this is proven in many tantric scriptures, including Pranatoshini Tantra, where the void that exists between dissolution and creation is actually called Dhumavati. And I cannot find a more celebratory stance of widowhood in Hinduism. Next slide, please. So coming to the folkloral part, again the same title, the aggressive nature of the motherly feminine. But here we see that when a farmer is beginning to plant the first seeds in his land, he takes them to the same temples but in different forms. He does not know that these are called Dashamahavidyas. He does not know that we have a Vaidika view of this, but he takes them, he offers it to the goddess, and then he goes and throws them in his field. That's how it is done. And these are goddesses like Pochamma, Yellamma, Maridamma, Dekkalamma. And these are the goddesses that I am quoting because these are the goddesses I know. These are called Grama Devatas or village goddesses. So they are available almost all over India. You can find temples all over India for all sorts of village goddesses. Each village has its own village goddess culture. And here you can see that that is basically a Pochamma temple. And I have just put the picture as a reference point that farmers like these, they usually, when they begin to plow the land, they go to Pochamma. When they want to throw the seeds, they go to Yellamma. And for specific parts of the specific agricultural work that they do, they have specific village goddesses that they approach. And they take the blessing first and do it. These goddesses, or the village goddesses, are basically seen as a life giver. But all of them again are wielding weapons. Even in this picture you can see she is carrying a trishula. So the same goddesses are seen as both devatas of dissolution or laya activities, like for example disease. And in Andhra and Telangana, we have goddesses specific to diseases. Say for example, if a child is afflicted with chicken pox, so he is taken to Atalamma or Pusalamma or Nallapochamma. But these goddesses, so these Atalamma or Pusalamma, Nallapochamma are goddesses who are seen as mothers who can cure the child of his affliction or of his disease. But at the same time, again I would like to remind you, they're all carrying weapons. The same goddesses are seen as both devatas of dissolution and creation, and they also do the activities, they also bless the activities of Srishti, like throwing seeds around. So basically here if you see, according to the folkloral view of these goddesses, both Brahma and Shiva are imbibed in the very same goddess. She is the creator, she is also the destroyer. She is the destroyer of diseases, she is the creator or giver of life. So it's both. Brahma and Shiva are both imbibed in Devi. And the balance between both is Vishnu. So basically Trimurtis exist within Shakti or within Devi according to the folkloral view of goddesses. Next slide please. So here I would like to bring a small comparison. What you see in the picture above, in the yellow picture, is basically a Dekkalama Devalayam. And this is from Andhra, this is from Kakinada if I am not wrong. And so in Kakinada, the Dekkalama Devalayam that exists has the exact same kind of representation that has been made for the Dashamahavidya known as Chinnamasta. So they don't call her Chinnamasta. It is not the title or the name of the temple is not a Chinnamasta Devalayam, it is Dekkalama Devalayam. They only know her by that name, that form. But they still are worshipping the same thing. So this is the classical folk interface that I would like to present. And next slide please. And jumping to the next part of my presentation, which is Gayatri. And as a worshipper or someone who has included in his life the ritual of Gayatri as an everyday thing, the logical nature of feminine astounds me. It is so logical, it is beyond comprehension. It is at that level of logic, and layers of encryption are there in this very sought after or very easy to remember mantra called the Gayatri mantra. And as a practitioner of the same thing, of a practice called Sandhya Vandana, which we are going to discuss in a few more minutes, I would like to read this small mantra which goes like Pranapana Vyanodana Samana Saprana Shveta Varna Sankhyayana Sagotra Gayatri Chaturvim Shatyakshara Tripada Shat Kukshihi Pancha Shirsha Upanayane Viniyogaha. So this is the mantra where the different levels or the different layers of encryption can actually be seen. Next slide please. And I am specifying the logical nature of the feminine because logic is seen to be in the wheelhouse of masculine according to the Western view. So that's why I am stressing on logic. Here the seer or the mantra drashta is describing Gayatri as Shvetavarna, which is white colored, and having the gotra of sage Vishwamitra, which is Sankhyayanasa, and having been composed of 24 letters, which is Chaturvim Shatyakshara. Chaturvim Shatyakshara is a one word. I'm just breaking it down so that easier to remember. 3-footed, 3-pada, and 6-bellied, Shat Kukshihi, and 5-headed, Pancha Shirshaha. and being used in Upanayana or in rituals associated with Upanayana like Sandhya Vandana, so Upanayane Viniyogaha. So that is how the mantra drashta is describing Gayatri. Next slide please. And as mentioned in Taittiriya Sandhya Bhashyam, these 3 feet are supposed to represent the 3 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda and Sama Veda. The 6 bellies are supposed to represent 6 directions, north, east, west and south. These are the directions we know, and then there is Urdhva and Adha. And the 5 heads are supposed to represent the Vedangas, Vyakarana, Siksha, Kalpa, Nirukti and Jyotisha. And this is not me saying it, it is the seers, the mantra drashtas have described this in this way, and that has been observed by the Bhashyakara or the person who is writing the Bhashya, who has written this Taittiriya Sandhya Bhashya. Next slide. And in this I have put up this picture of the sun just setting down, because this is what we worship. Essentially this is what we are calling as Sandhya in the Sandhya Vandana. And this Sandhya is composed of 24 different types of Shaktis. And the position of when in the mantra previously there is a line Pancha Shirsha Upanayane Viniyogaha, and the Pancha Shirshas are points on your head. And if you draw a triangle between these the 3 points, the first 3 points and the other 2 points, you can form something called the Gayatri Yantra. And you can also create a 3D diagram of the same, and that's how it is meant to be. And that is the level of encryption or the logic behind this. And the next slide please. So these are the 24 Shaktis of Gayatri, and this paper will be uploaded on Indica anyway, so you can read them. As time is running out, I'm skipping this slide. Next slide. So basically this is the literal worship of encryption, logic and complex thought, in stark contrast with the Western view that these qualities are supposedly masculine. They are not, in fact, and that is the all-encompassing view that I want to present. Next slide. Finally, we come to ecofeminism. So for those of you, the so-called uninitiated, I want to introduce this small concept of ecofeminism, where they draw an intersectionality between ecology and feminism, because supposedly the feminine is being exploited, and the same way the ecology is also being exploited. There is always an aggressor and somebody who is oppressed, right? This is the whole Western or contemporary view. And if this form or this method of ecofeminism is to be countered, it can be countered with Sandhya Vandana. Sandhya is one of the goddesses of Hindu Pantheon, as I've already told you. And Sandhya Vandana is a literal hour-long practice, and it encompasses ecological as well as feminine values. All the time worshipping every day is Gayatri Mata. She is seen as Mata. Although if you get into the technicalities of it, Savitra is a Punlinga Shabda, and there is other methods to argue that, but I am only talking about the Gayatri Mata as she is seen in the contemporary Hindu Pantheon, right? And this hour-long practice is actually a practice of ecofeminism, because it encompasses both the worship of ecology as well as the feminine, right? All nature worship elements are combined with worshipping the feminine in nature, and a whole ritual is dedicated to this. No other culture has this kind of a ritual. Next slide. And finally, I would like to end with a beautiful, beautiful description called Manidvipam. So here, Vaishnavas go to Vaikunta and Shaivas go to Kailasa. So where do Shaktiyas go? Shaktiyas go to Manidvipa. Manidvipa is that place they attain when they get liberated. Liberated from the birth and death cycle, go beyond the duality of Swarga Naraka. And this takes feminine to a whole another level, where even if the practitioner is a male, as soon as he gets liberated, as soon as he is out of the cycle, he gets a divine female body. All the worshippers in Manidvipa are female. Although on earth they may be male, but when they rise to the level or escape this cycle, they acquire the divine body of a female and worship Devi. Next slide. finally, I would like to end with this shloka, Antascharati bhuteshu guhayam vishwamurtishu. That which is all-pervading is found in the caves of the world, spreading its light, and that is the feminine. To be more precise, the feminine in Hinduism and only in Hinduism. Thank you.